This is the long-awaited video on how to do a roller set. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I like to do my roller set. We're going to talk about things like on base and off base and the different supplies that you'll need, some different options depending on if you are doing synthetic hair or human hair. There's lots of random things to talk about when it comes to doing a roller set, so I'm going to kind of jump right on in, and we're going to talk about what I'm going to use for this roller set. So as you see here, I have a long lace front wig that I'm going to be using for this. It is already blocked down in the front and in the back, and then we're going to talk about what we need for our roller set. So first things first is you need rollers. My go-to rollers are these mesh rollers. I believe this is the Annie brand. It's Annie and Diane, I think, are the main two companies that make these mesh rollers. These are my favorite. It just makes it really easy to attach it to, or like pin it into the wig head. So these I'm going to be using 1 1/4 inch today because this is some very long hair and I want this to be a slightly looser, like Hollywood wave in the end. So I'm going to be using 1 1/4 mesh rollers. The other thing that you're going to need is going to be a spray bottle of water. And then you're going to need some end wraps. At least I like to use end wraps. You do not need to use end wraps if you don't want to, but again, I like to use them. Next, you will need some pins. So I like to use 3-inch pearl pins to hold my roller set into place. If you don't have these, another perfectly good option is using like the prong clips, like the duckbill clips, or even like the longer clips if you want to. You can use this to hold your roller into place if you'd like, instead of using a pin. I personally love a pin. You can just stab the head in and easy to go rather than trying to clip this in. But again, either or works. And then last but not least, you will need a brush and or a rat tail comb. I tend to like to brush all the tangles out using a brush, and then you can do any parting or any smoothing of the hair with your rat tail comb. Ooh, I lied. The other thing that you're going to need is a steamer. I have seen people like to sometimes just dunk the whole head into a pot of boiling water. If you'd like to try that, go ahead. I personally like to use a steamer. You don't need to use anything as fancy as the one that I'll show you later in the video, but you do just need to steam your synthetic wigs to set them. And then to dry them, a couple different options I'll kind of talk about more when I get there. You can use a wig dryer, you can use a blow dryer on lower setting, you can set it outside, you can just let it dry over the span of a couple days. You have options. So those are the materials that I will be using today. So per usual, we're just going to kind of jump right on in and get going on our roller set. So some terms you're going to want to know when it comes to doing roller set are going to be things like on base and off base, and then brick set. Those are some things that you hear a lot when people are referring to roller sets. Another thing that's extremely important is knowing the size of section that you're going to take. So for this class, for just the ease of being able to see everything that I am doing, I'm just going to do a straight back brick set. And I'm going to be using these rollers here. And so to describe a brick set, and then you'll be able to see it once I get to it. A brick set is when you have 2 rollers, and then in your next row, you place your roller in between those 2 rollers, just like a brick wall. What this is going to do is this is going to keep you from having any like big splits in your style that you have to try to then connect, so you don't have that gap in your style. If you do this brick set all the way down, this will keep you from having those gaps. And then let's talk about the size of the section that we are going to use. So I'm not gonna lie, I tend to just do most of my parting with my fingers because I feel when it comes to a wig, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be as clean and precise as you would on an actual human's head. So I like to just part with my fingers, but if you like to be precise, you're welcome to use that rat tail comb, and you can use that to part your sections. But the biggest thing that is important is that your section should not be wider than your roller, and it should not be thicker than your roller. Those are the biggest 2 things that you want to do. So I'm going to take a section here, and it's going to be about that size. So as we can see, this section is not, it's really close. If anything, I might make that a little bit smaller, but it's not wider than my roller. And if I turn it to the side here, it is not thicker than my roller. Again, looking at it, I'm like, ooh, I could maybe lose just a little extra on the sides to be on the safe side. So I'm gonna go, I lost just that little bit on the side. So now that is sitting there, my section is not wider than my roller. Let me show you an example of what you don't want to do, for instance, is that if my section is wider than what I grabbed, and this one's also pretty thick as well, I'm gonna do the real quick and sloppy roll just so that you can see why you don't want your section to be wider. So I'm just rolling this down. My section is wider than my roller. And we can see here, all of this hair is coming off to the side, and then you are also pushing that roller set into the middle, and that is going to mess with the line of your wave that you're going to create with this roller set. All right, so now let's talk about on base versus off base. And I'm going to say too, like I was doing some research just to make sure I had kind of all my terminology right and all my angles and everything right, and there's lots of different ways people like to say all of this. Like some people like to say it's off base dropped, some people like to say it's over directed off base. There's lots of different ways of phrasing things, so this is kind of just a general explanation of what on base and off base are. So on base, I'm going to bring the hair basically straight out at almost a 90-degree angle from the head. And I'm just going to kind of do this quick and dirty right now. I'll get down to the more specifics and like niceness of a roller set in a second. All right, but so you see that was kind of 90 degrees from the direction that the hair was coming out of the wig. So on base is the roller set that you are mostly going to use and see, and it is going to give you volume right at towards like the base of the wig there. So again, the most common one that you're going to see. If you want less volume, then you're going to do off base, and you're going to do it kind of under directed. I don't know if that's the correct way of phrasing it. But what you're going to do is instead of going straight up, you're going to pull that hair closer to you and then roll that. So do it again. Again, this is not the pretty way of doing a roller set. You can see there's lots of flyaways and stuff too because I haven't used any water. But if I'm doing off base, this is, sometimes people call it dropped, off base, under directed. It can be a couple different things here. Is that you can see that now I'm further away from where my hair is starting. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you more flatness in that area. So a lot of people might like to use that in the back, so that way you don't get a lot of volume or fullness in the back. Sometimes people don't want a very big swoopy bang, they want something a little more natural. Doing off base dropped is going to give you that flatter, more natural curl. If you want more dramatic, so this might be when you want like that big swoopy bang, you can go off base over directed, which is where you will pull that hair straight forward, or like not straight forward, but instead of going straight up, you'll pull that forward, and it's gonna be over directed, and then you roll it up from there. I'll kind of get into more of this, but I like tension, how important tension is, creating a nice strong roll. So just keep going, going, going. So this is off base over directed, and what that's going to do is that's going to give you even more volume in that top. It's going to give you more space, more of a curve in that very first wave or that very first roll, and that is going to give you extra volume. So again, that's usually used more so on like the front part of the hair when you're trying to get like a big voluminous swoopy bang. So those are kind of the main three that you will see. Is going to be on base, and then you got off base dropped, or off base under directed, which is where it's going to be not straight up, it's going to be pulled back and then rolled. And then you have off base over directed, which is where it's going to be, again, not straight up, pulled forward, and then rolled to give you extra volume. So those are a couple different options for you. Again, traditionally, you are mostly going to see just traditional on base, which is what I'm going to do in the roller set today. All right, so for this roller set, I'm going to keep it really simple, and I'm just going to have everything rolled towards the back, and I'm going to do a brick set. The reason for that, I think, is it's the easiest, cleanest way for you to do a brick set, and I like to do this if I have no clue what I want the final design or look to be, is that if everything is just going back, it kind of gives you the most freedom to play with whatever you want. If you give yourself like a hard part, and then you part directionally, and then you roll directionally from there, you're kind of stuck with however you rolled that hair, wherever you place that part. But if you do everything going back, then you have a little bit more freedom to part wherever you want to, and be able to move that hair around however you like. Not to mention, if I do just everything going back, and then I'm styling, and later I realize I need to like change the direction of the hair to get the design or the style that I want, then I can go through and just re-roll a couple of pieces, steam those couple of pieces, and then be able to style that later. So again, just kind of easy peasy, just roll everything back. That way you can also see what a brick set will look like on a full head. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start in my center. That is my favorite place to start. Taking my section, once again, we don't want it to be wider than a roller or thicker. This section, for instance, is thicker than my roller. That's a happy place there. All right, so I'm going to take my spray bottle of water. I like to just get my hair damp. So this is something that is very, very important. It is synthetic versus human hair. If you are using a human hair wig, or even just doing this on a human, what is really important is the hair has to be evenly and fully saturated. That is what is going to give you an even curl. When you are doing synthetic hair, however, this hair can be completely wet or it can be completely dry. As long as it is evenly steamed, that is what is going to give you your even curl. For synthetic hair, that steam is going to be, that wet heat, that is what is going to set your curl, not the amount of water that is on it. So personally, I don't like to use an abundance of water when I do my sets on synthetic wigs because then it takes them longer to dry. I do want to, you might need to use a little bit more though if your hair has lots of layers throughout. So I'm gonna pull my hair straight up. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to move the camera to show you this in more detail in a little bit, but we will start with pulling this hair straight up to go on base. I'm going to bookend my end wraps. I'm going to kind of fold those in half over the ends. The reason for end wraps is to not give yourself little fish hooks in the end or to have your ends be all crinkly. I'm going to pull that straight to the end and then start rolling that down. Tension is key with a roller set. So I am pulling, you can see how taut this hair is. I am pulling the hair straight up while I am rolling it down. So there, now I've got some nice tension on it, and it's secure. Then I just start rolling it from there, holding it by the ends, rolling down until I get to the head. And then I'm going to take, personally I like to take 2 pins, one on each side, to hold my roller into place. Ooh, got a stray hair that wants to get out. There we go, hold my roller into place. If you have a little bit of these like stray hairs, that's fine. I think that that's fine. It's not usually a big deal because it's not going to make that big of a difference in your style, especially if you're doing any like teasing and stuff like that. I don't mind a couple of stray hairs. If you have a lot of stray hairs, that could potentially be a problem. I can kind of show you some ways to help with that on this next one. All right, so taking my next section, it's going to sit right next to the one I just did. Right, this section is a little too wide. Let's make that a little thinner. There we go. Brushing this away from the hair. I want to get all the tangles out. This one has a lot of tangles in it. This is a wig that I dyed. This was originally white, and then I dip dyed her in red dye, so she is pretty snarly. This time around, I'm going to use my rat tail comb. I'm going to hold it in my hand the whole time, true Cosmo School style. Wow. Get through all those tangly ends. Keep getting, there we go. One knot that was being a pain in my butt. There we go. Okay, try that one more time. Pull that straight up. Now I'm going to take my end wrap. Once again, do that bookmark, or like that book end wrap where you fold it in half over the ends. Take my roller, I'm gonna pull that straight up until I get right to like the ends of the hair there, and then pull that down. Or I'm gonna start rolling that down. So the reason I like to keep my rat tail in my hand is, say I get to a section where there are flyaways, and I can use my rat tail to help pull those sections in. It's like right here, I don't want those to kind of get flipped under, so I can use my rat tail to kind of comb those under. Right, got that there. I'm going to show you real quick, just in case you don't have pins. If you need to use a clip, you can just take your clip, and I like to, the big thing is you don't want to clip it up here because that's not going to hold the tension to the head. You want to put one end of the clip into the foundation of the wig and one end of the clip into the roller. Easier said than done sometimes, there we go. So there you go, so that's how you would use your clip if you want to. Again, personally, I like pins. It's a little therapeutic, you can just stab it in the head. Not really. It really just, it holds your roller in better personally than I think the clip does. So I like to do that, but I also understand not everybody has those. So options. All right, I'm gonna move this up a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna do this section here. Let me switch back to my brush because I'm tangled. You can see this one's got lots of little flyaway pieces that are gonna fight me, so we'll work on that. You see I'm holding that tension the whole time, end wrap. To the end there, and then start rolling. Again, my arms are already tired. I'm holding that tension the entire time. You can see how taut that hair is there. And then we just roll it down from there. Put my comb down. All right, and then stick my 2 pins in. All right, so there we go, that's our first couple. Now I'm gonna kind of play with camera angles a little bit so you can kind of see the book end that I'm talking about on the ends a little bit more clearly. And then I will, on the next row, I will show you brick sets so you can kind of really see that. And then we'll time lapse the rest of it because I'm sure you don't need to see all of that. So we'll go ahead and I will show you the end wraps and how to do the book end wrap on the ends of it to keep your ends from getting all fishhook-y and messing up the style. Alright, so you can't see the wig at this point, but this is to focus more on the end wrap anyways, so. So again, comb that hair straight out. Alright, and then for that end wrap, I'm going to take my end wrap here, about half of it on one side, fold it in half to the other side there, and take my roller. You see I'm not quite at the end because I like to slide it to the end, and then we start rolling down. Keeping that tension the whole time. I know I kind of cover it, sorry, it's hard to see right at the beginning there because I'm holding all that hair in as I'm starting to roll it. It gives me a little bit more tension, a little more grip on that roller to make sure that it is nice and secure as I start rolling it down. And then once I know that I've got that tautness in the hair around the roller, then I will just start rolling it from the ends of the roller. So one thing that's really fun about these mesh rollers that I've learned that most people don't know, so I'm going to share with you guys, is if you have a section of hair that is narrower than your roller, and you're just like, oh man, I wish it was shorter, these can get shorter. So on the inside is a spring. So all you have to do is push that mesh inside a little bit to make it shorter. If you want it even shorter than that, you just push the mesh in even more. So you just literally, you're folding that mesh inside, you're compacting that spring down, you can make your roller as small as you want. The reason I thought of that is because I'm doing a section here where my section's a little bit smaller than my other ones were, and I'm like, hey, I can make my roller a little bit smaller there. So that's kind of fun facts about these mesh rollers, one of the reasons I really love them. I've always hated those, I mean, feel free to use them, no shame to anybody who likes them. I'm a big fan of use whatever you prefer. But those plastic, like those hard plastic ones, we used those in cosmetology school. For wigs, and especially because like I use the pins, I feel that those rollers could be a pain in the butt. Because you gotta like line up the holes in order to get it into the head. So I like these mesh ones because there's 100 different holes on there that you can choose from. All right, so there we go. And slide it on down. So I used the smaller roller that I just made. There we go. I have my first first row of rollers, and so now I'm going to do my next row. I'm going to kind of turn it to the side a little bit too, see if you see like different angles if I'm at the side, and that way you can also see me lay the brick set, and then I'll show you what that looks like as well. All right, so I'm showing this at a weird angle for me, but hopefully you can see it pretty clearly. So for the brick set, for my second row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my next section, is going to be sitting right here in between these first two. So just kind of a quick rough pull of hair here. Like I said, she is tangly. All right. There we go. So just again, just kind of a quick rough pull of that up. You can see that this section here that I'm taking is sitting in between these first two rollers. Again, kind of like a brick wall. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll this section next. All right, so to start my second row here, gone through, detangled, mostly detangled. Pull it straight up and wrap, roller, go up to the ends there, and then start rolling down. And then place our pins in. All right, so there we go. So that is our, let me take this off and show you real quick. All right, so that is the start of my second row. You can see that that second row is sitting in between that first row, that brick set. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna do one more row and then just keep working my way back. While I'm doing this for a little bit here, I'll just kind of ramble about some random things I can think about when it comes to curling hair, roller sets, and all of that. And then eventually I'll do like fast forward because I'm going to run out of things to talk about. The big one being is that a lot of people hate roller sets. And that is absolutely fair. I can see why a lot of people don't like this. It can be time consuming, especially when you're first starting out. The big thing, and this goes with pretty much everything in life, is that the more that you do it, the faster it gets. You know, a lot of times, like the faster it gets, sometimes the more fun it gets. So I've had like weeks straight where I've done basically nothing but roller sets at work. Not my current job, but I remember there was one theater job that I had where we had a week before the designer got there, and they shipped me all the wigs in advance and sent me pictures of the roller sets. And so for the entire week, I did nothing but like 40 roller sets in 1 week. So you know, you kind of get into the groove of things, and it's not so bad. And I really enjoy doing roller sets now. I find them very calming and very relaxing. So it's one of those, like, the more you do it, sometimes the easier it gets and the better it gets. That's not always the case. I do know there's some people who have to do this every single day and just hate doing roller sets, and that's perfectly fine too. Let's see, some other options. So if you do hate doing mesh rollers like this, or say you don't have these, some other really great options are hot rollers. I am the queen of hot rollers. I use them all the time at my job at Beatles Love. I use hot rollers every time that I style at that show. I love hot rollers. So hot rollers are a really great option as well. So most synthetic wigs nowadays, you can use heat on them, so you can actually use like a curling iron or a flat iron. Personally, it's not something that I ever really recommend, but I can't stop you. So feel free to go ahead and try to use heat. You can do like this exact same technique. The number one thing that is extremely important if you use heat on a synthetic wig is that you need to clip that hair into place right away. So if you like, let me do this real quick and we'll just pretend it is a curling iron. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead. We're gonna pretend that this is a curling iron right now. So if you are using a curling iron, you're going through, you're curling, sitting there with a curling iron. We're gonna use our imagination for a second because I don't wanna actually use a curling iron on this. So let's just pretend that this roller here is a curling iron. What I would then do is you'll take the curling iron out and you wouldn't have to like twist it like I'm doing right now. You'd be able to just pull the curling iron out, but you have to do what I'm doing, where I'm holding the hair in place, and then you can take a duckbill clip, and then you clip that to the head right afterwards. So you can do this with a curling iron. Again, that same technique, roll it down with a curling iron, but then you want to like hold that hair and clip it up right away. If you let this hair drop, you're going to lose all sorts of curl, you're going to lose any curl that you could possibly have from it. It has to, when it comes to synthetic hair and dry heat, again, like a curling iron, like a flat iron, what is going to set that curl is it cooling down. It being heated up is just going to heat up this plastic, and it's not going to hold the curl. So you have to clip it up right away and then let that cool, and then you'll get a curl. I will fully admit though that this with the roller set is going to give you a stronger, longer lasting curl than you're ever going to get with a curling iron. But I do know that sometimes you gotta use what you gotta use, or you gotta use what you have, and so then you can go ahead and you can use a curling iron, but again, just pull that curling iron and clip it right away and let it cool to set your curl. All right, onto this side. As you can see here, so we're continuing on with that brick set, splitting the first two rollers, or that first row of rollers, I should say, and just keep on going. I think that's all I can really think of to say about roller sets. Oh, I guess I can talk about like using like a setting lotion. Some people really like to use a setting lotion. It's really popular in theaters, especially. I'll be honest, I am not a fan of setting lotion. I think it makes your wigs kind of crunchy, and I'm not a fan of that. I prefer having like a softer feel and a softer look. So I'm not a big fan of setting lotions, but I know that some people love them, especially people in theater. So setting lotions are an option. That is just, it's basically like, I dare say like almost like a gel that you would put on this to help hold your curl longer. But again, it makes it crunchy. So it really depends on the final look that you want or need from your style. Will kind of determine whether or not you would want to use a setting lotion. Because most of the time I'm kind of brushing through everything. I don't want it crunchy, so it is not my cup of tea. All right, we have our first two rows. You can see that brick set pretty clearly. So now I'm just going to roll my way down the rest of this wig. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna time lapse that for you guys because that's gonna be a little bit of a process. So we're gonna fast forward, and then once we get to the end, I will show you what the whole roller set looks like, and we will talk about steaming the wig. All right, so our roller set is done. Here's the 360 of it. As you can see, we're brick set for most of it. I think like one row back here got a little wonky, but I'm not too worried about that. It's the very bottom of it. There's our 360. Let me take this off so you can see the top as well. Lost a pin. So top, working our way back. So that's a relatively basic roller set. Again, this is kind of just a good neutral place to start if you don't entirely know what you want the style to be. If you do know what you want the style to be, at that point, that is when you would kind of play with the directions of things. If you know you want it to be a side part, then you would give yourself a side part and then roll things going down, usually kind of at an angle away from the face. So there you go. Those are kind of the roller set basics, just some fun information for you so you can get some more details on how to do a roller set specifically on a synthetic wig. So now I have this steamer behind me going. This is just a Jiffy steamer. This is kind of a bougier steamer. You absolutely don't need this. You can use a little like handheld travel steamer. That's what I use in all my classes when I go to different cities. They work just fine. So, two options that you can do with this one is that you can take your steamer and you can just sit here and you can steam each roller. I'd hit each roller for at least like 10 seconds. Make sure that you're getting all of them, because again, like if you end up missing one roller, then you're gonna go and you're gonna take these down and they'll all be beautiful ringlets, except for one will be like stick straight because you didn't hit it. So you wanna make sure that you're hitting all of them. Another option that you can do is you can take a bag, like a large shopping bag or a garbage bag, and you can put this over the top. And what this is going to do is it's almost going to act like a hood dryer for steam. And it's just going to cycle all of the steam through. So I will place the handle inside of the bag. Then I make sure that I wrap the bag around the handle so I don't steam my hand. And then you literally just let the steam kind of circulate inside of the bag and it gets all of it. I like to try to either move the steamer so that I hit like all sides of the head, or I can even like just twist the head inside to hit all sides of the head that way. Please be careful when doing this method. You're gonna have a whole lot of steam trapped inside of this bag. So if any of it ever like sneaks out of the bottom, it could potentially burn you. And also when you take this off at the end, you'll have a big old cloud of steam and even some dripping water. You wanna make sure that you are kind of away from that as much as you can. So again, please, please, please be careful if you are doing the bag method. I don't need anybody messaging me that they got burned. That is not what we want. So usually, again, you can kind of see the bag is wrapped around the handle. That usually protects my hand really well. And it does kind of like, you can see it's kind of venting through the bottom here just a little bit, but it's far enough away from my hand that I'm all right. So I'm just going through, I'm moving the head inside, again, just kind of trying to make sure my steam is hitting all sides of the wig. A lot of the times, like if the bag kind of, I don't know, if like the steam is all hitting at the top, sometimes the bottom rollers don't get steamed as much, or if the steam's all hitting the bottom, the top doesn't get as much. So I just like to try to move that around. You only need to do this method for a couple of minutes, like not long at all. All right, once you have steam in there too, you can actually take the steamer out, and then you can just kind of let the steam sit in there and do its thing. Get my steamer off. Let that sit there for a little bit. Through the bag, I can even kind of touch the rollers, make sure everything feels roasty toasty. Let that sit as long as you need to. As you can see, like you guys saw me do that whole thing. This did not take very long at all. That steam really like circulates in there really well with the bag method. If you are ever doing a partial steam, or sorry, if you're ever doing a partial roller set on something, you do not want to do this method. As an example, working in theater, sometimes like if the top part of a wig is braided and then the bottom part is a roller set and you're just redoing that roller set but you're not redoing the braid, make sure that you don't do this method because you'll mess up the top part of it. You only want to use this bag method if you're steaming the entire wig. So let's go ahead, open her up. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of steam coming off of this when we open that bag. Sometimes a lot of water dripping off, especially if you're steaming lots of wigs. All right, so now I'm just going to go through, just kind of touch all of them, make sure everything feels warm and damp. Everything's feeling good to me. Just double check. Yeah, I think everything feels fine. All right, so I'm happy with the level of steam that this wig has gotten. So for drying your wig, you have a couple options. The number one choice is that if you are especially if you're working in a theater or for film or anything like that, if you have a wig oven or a wig dryer, it's a little wooden box that circulates warm air, that will dry this. That's the number one ideal thing, but that is thousands of dollars, so I know that that is not in everybody's budget. Some other options is you can just sit with a blow dryer on low. Like I said, these can handle heat. So you can use a blow dryer on low to kind of hit this a little bit. Honestly, most of the time, if you just set this aside and let it dry overnight, that is a perfectly good option. If you're living somewhere that's humid, you might need to hit it with a little more of a dry heat, like a blow dryer, to kind of help it at the end. But you'll be able to tell when you start taking it out if it feels damp. Just re-roll that one, pin it back into place, and give it another little bit if you need to. There are some kind of little like wig hacks where you can take like a cardboard box or a plastic tub, cut a hole in it and stick a blow dryer in that. It kind of acts as a wig oven or a wig dryer and circulates the air. Just be careful. That does work. That was the very first thing that I ever did when I started styling at home. And it does work. Just be careful because it could be a fire hazard. So it's one of those things like kind of stay in the room with it, check on it periodically to make sure that everything is safe. So there you go. So that is our roller set. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to dry this. I'm going to take it out so you can see the nice fun bouncy curls. It's one of my favorite things to see. Like I always do like the Tigger sound, the bouncy, 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 fun, 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 because it is really fun to see these ringlets when we take them down. So I'll be back in just a second to show you how I'm going to take these out and show you the final result. All right, she has been in my dryer for the last half an hour or so. She feels nice and dry to me, so we're going to go ahead and take her down. Pretty basic. You take out your pins, throw away your end paper, put your roller away. Easy peasy. Fast forward through this. It's always fun to see if I get the right order. I've got garbage, rollers, pins. Let's see if I end up throwing away my rollers or my pins or something, mixing up my order. Right, so if you wanted to, so I'm just kind of like letting mine drop like this, but if you want to, you can also take it out like that so that it stays in ringlet form. Really just kind of depends on what you're wanting the style to be. This will just kind of keep your hair obviously in its ringlet shape if you want to use those ringlets. Otherwise, normally just pulling it out as such is my preference. Alright, so all my rollers are out. You can see because I did that on base, we get like that lift, that like volume from that roller set. She is looking cute and bouncy. I love fresh curled wigs. This is a thick wig too. There we go. So this is our roller set. Obviously this is literally nothing done. I've just pulled the rollers out. I could go through now, brush through it, and kind of give it that nice like Hollywood sculpted wave. Obviously that's going to take a little bit of work. It's going to take a little bit of brushing and backcombing and clipping and hairspraying and all that fun stuff. But that is how you do a roller set. I was not intending on doing a full brush out of her, but it just kind of ended up happening. Literally using I used a brush, my comb, and a little bit of a flexible hairspray. It just kind of goes to show that if you do a good roller set, this took like 5 minutes, just brushed it out, and all those waves just kind of came nicely into place. If I wanted to, I could go through and like sculpt this and make this really nice, but this is just 5 seconds brushing it out quickly with a brush comb and a little bit of hairspray. And that just, again, kind of goes to show what a good roller set can do for you. Look how pretty she is. Bubblegum Barbie, I'm here for it. So there we go. Like I said, just kind of some basic roller set information for you guys. This is also the very like roller set 101. So you can take all of this information and kind of play with it. This is where you can start over directing or under directing depending on the design that you want to create. You can part the hair in a different place. You can change the direction of the rollers. As an example, if you know that you want all of this stuff here like sitting down more, you don't need to roll it away from the base. You can roll down rather than back. Like you can, if you do the caged wig styles, you'll see if you roll the back of it going upward for an updo. So you can kind of change the direction of the rollers. You can change on base, off base, all the different things to kind of play around with the design and style of your wig. So if you watched this one, I'm sure you've already watched the washing video, like how to wash a wig, how to block a wig, and I will have some more videos coming up as well that you are welcome to check out. And if you want to learn more styling specifically for caged wigs, I do have those online